So right now I'll be practicing my reasoning part of my big board, which is the reasoning behind some of the folklore and the stories themselves. So to begin, many of these stories are told, but I wondered why they were come up with. Like, what was the motive behind creating this lore? So I looked at each story and I kind of came up with some reasons why. To begin with Bigfoot. Now, the people who tell the first recorded sighting, as I mentioned earlier, are the loggers themselves. They're in the forest all day, they see some weird footprints, and it creates this sort of paranoia that has already been in them. Now, since they're in the forest all day, one weird twig snap or odd shadow creates a scare for them because the forest is so vast they're really not sure what could or couldn't be out there. Now, this fear of the forest itself roots back all the way to when Europeans came to the New World. When they came to the New World, coming upon the land, all they saw was these huge trees that covered everywhere. James Oliver Robertson, in his book American Myth, American Reality, quotes, "Europeans saw forests as mysterious places that were dark and suggestive of evil. Truly, the forests were only for local natives and wildlife, two things that at first were very unknown and very unexplored to the Europeans." Next, I looked at the story of Mothman and tried to come up with a reasoning behind the creation of that story. With him, I thought everyone looks into the night sky and they think that there's something out there besides us, something bigger in the sky, in the universe, something outside ourselves that has more meaning than our small species on this small planet compared to the universe. Now, this roots to the idea that Mothman is more than just a large bird. Specifically in this area of Point Pleasant, there's this common sandhill crane that can even grow to the size of man. But when coming up with the story, they added more power to Mothman and created him as some sort of omen. In this case, an omen for bad luck to occur. Again, when I tell of the story of the Silver Bridge collapse, I tell how right before that sighting, there was many sightings of right before the incident, there was many sightings of Mothman, and even people were receiving bad dreams of death, and basing these dreams off their sightings of Mothman. Now, relating back to this bridge collapse, they blamed this collapse on Mothman being in the area, that he was a bad omen, and because he was there, this bridge collapsed. And then this is just really an excuse for human error to place it on a creature that may or may not really be out there and putting the blame on someone else, which is something that humans like to do. And then finally, when I looked at the Gloucester sea serpent, I reasoned that back to when the Europeans again were traveling to the New World. It hosted many troubles, specifically on the ships. The ships faced bad weather, sickness, and the people on the ships were risking their life for a new place and a new life. So they had this fear on the way over that induced distress in all of them. So But the real people who went after the serpent were the sailors themselves. These were the people who had to take care of the ship when it was coming over, while everyone else lie below underneath, safely stored away. Now, when I talk about the sailors, I talk about how when they went out to go attack this creature, they really weren't aware if the serpent was an actual threat. But to them it posed as an unknown, so they thought they were threatened by it and invoked action to try and eliminate it in order to protect their interests and livelihood. Now, these sailors acted in a very reactive way, to something that may or may not have been a real threat, but trying to get rid of it would give them some peace of mind to something they didn't understand. And now, how do I relate all these together? How do I relate all these myths and stories? I relate them through the fear of the unknown. H.P. Lovecraft, in his essay, Supernatural Horror in Literature, quotes, "The strongest and oldest kind of fear is fear of the unknown." What humanity likes to do is it takes something simple and makes it more complicated and dramatic. When fear is involved, people try to explain natural things in a supernatural way, and this was mainly prevalent in the past when scientific research wasn't as developed. Since then, humans have discovered many more things and almost have come up with more reasonings to debunk this lore and these myths, but there's still many things yet to be understood and many things yet to be researched in our world. But in order to do that, humans must continue to discover these new things, but need to overcome their irrational fear of the unknown in order to continue to grow and learn.